The story of Pakistan is based on lies. So this dossier is also based on lies. If you remember what happened in Mumbai, during Mumbai attacks also Lashkar-e-Toiba went ahead and claimed those attacks and then they claimed complete deniability.
What about their claims that this was a false flag?
How far is Balochistan from Indian border? How does Pakistan blame India for anything which happens into Balochistan? How does Pakistan blame anything which happens into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? If Modi has a rigid authoritarian regime going on, Prime Minister Modi, how is it then the media is able to point fingers and ask questions? In Pakistan, there is no free and fair media. Not even a single journalist has asked one single question to Pakistan. Because this ecosystem was so strong before 2014. And now suddenly they find themselves completely irrelevant. And that has literally turned them lunatic. So Americans killed civilians. Osama was a civilian. It's like New York Times saying Baghdadi was an austere scholar. So that's the kind of thing they are saying. Well, had this war gone on, I think Pakistan would have claimed the entire Indian army has been obliterated and nobody is fighting us. That is how bad they are, right? When they talk about Rafales being down or 5 aircrafts being shot, where is the proof?
हेलो एंड वेलकम टू द पैम्फलेट वॉर रूम. मैं हूं निर्वा मेहता और हम आज डिस्कस करेंगे पाकिस्तान का डॉसियर और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर. एंड वी हैव विथ अस राजा मुनीब. हेलो मुनीब, वेलकम बैक टू द पैम्फलेट वॉर रूम.
Thank you, Nirwa. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about the dossier that the Pakistan has released on the Operation Sindoor and their so-called retaliation, which they claim that has been only on the military installations, and that they have accused India of being the aggressor, right? So 18-20 page का ये dossier है,
20 pages.
20 pages, but obviously it's actually kind of a joke. But I want your views on the overall dossier. कि आपको क्या लगता है? What are your views on it?
It's a continuation of where story of Pakistan begins, and that is the story of Pakistan is based on lies. So this dossier is also based on lies, because if you go through the dossier, I mean, just look at the executive summary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you look at the executive summary, and I think it's line 3 or line 4, where Pakistan talks about India conducting false flag operations, including that of Mumbai. I mean, how brazen you have to be to say that lie again and again when you say that India conducted a false flag operation in Mumbai terror attack. When, the whole world, not only the world, I mean, everybody around the world knows it was Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Toiba which did it. So, this is the kind of deniability Pakistan lives into. And this is a classic, approach, I would say, where they want to create deniability after carrying terror attack after terror attack in India, including that of Jammu and Kashmir. So I don't see it anything different than from the past. This is what they have done in the past. This is what they're doing now as well. They're basically just recycling their old lies and their old deniability claims, when in fact they very well know that this is such a rotten lie that nobody in the world is about to buy this.
Right, but they have also. So while we are not going to believe their dossier, because obviously we will have more faith in our own agencies, our own armed forces, they have mentioned that India, there were 8 more sites that India attacked that were not in our what we had released. How true would that be?
So see, Nirva, this dossier is not prepared for us to believe.
Right.
This dossier Pakistan is basically giving out to the rest of the world in their own defense and trying to portray India as the aggressor in the recent Operation Sindoor, what we saw after Pahalgam terror attacks, right? So this dossier is not for us. This dossier is for the world. But the larger question is, has the world bought into the dossier, or have they even looked into the dossier? But what Pakistan doesn't realize is that when you go with the kind of dossier wherein you basically deny anything and everything you have to do with terrorism, the world is going to take the dossier and put it in a dustbin. And that is exactly what has happened with this as well. Because if you look at the Bilawal Bhutto's visit, which has, we went to Washington, he went to UNSC, he tried reaching out to the Islamic countries with the same dossier. He has met with utter humiliation. Nothing but humiliation. And how? Let me explain. So he met this congressman in Washington by the name of Brad Sherman. And after meeting Brad Sherman, and The whole point of meeting Brad Sherman was to garner some support for Pakistan and some sympathy for Pakistan. After meeting him, Brad Sherman has publicly gone on his X. And the first question he's asked Pakistanis is that why you still harbor Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan. He has said very categorically that Jaish-e-Mohammed was the organization which was behind the murder of Daniel Pearl, the journalist in Pakistan. So he has literally taken them on there by saying that you have terror camps in your home, right? Then he has moved further, and then he has come on to point number 2, where is religious freedom in Pakistan. So when Bilawal has been harping about anti-Muslim in India and all that, and the response to that was that in Pakistan there is no freedom for the minorities to practice their religion, and he has specifically mentioned the Ahmadiyas, the Shias, the Hindus, and the Christians.
Right.
He has said that Pakistan doesn't allow any freedom of religion expression in Pakistan, and that is extremely bad, which Pakistan needs to look into. Then, I'm looking at issue after issue. Then on IWT, he has taken a nick on Pakistan. He's literally taken a snap on Pakistan and made a very sarcastic remark where he has said that China cannot nick India's water, India cannot nick Pakistan's water, and Pakistan's Punjab cannot nick Sindh's water. So basically, he's called out the hypocrisy of the Pakistanis when they talk about IWT, saying that you yourself are exploiting the other regions outside Punjab for your own military gains, because we all know that the water which he's talking about is linked to the corporate farming project which the Pakistani military has started on a large scale, where they need water and they're draining out water from Sindh to this desert area which they want to re-irrigate in Balochistan and create a corporate farm there, right? The canal is called Cholistan Canal. So he has debunked Pakistan there as well on IWT. Then he talks about enforced disappearances within Pakistan, where he quotes Pakistan's own Human Rights Council saying that they have documented 8,000 enforced disappearances in Pakistan of Sindhis. So he has picked up Sindhis. He's not talking about Baloch. He's not talking about KPK. He's talking about Sindh, right? He's talking about heartland Pakistan. And he has said that 8,000 enforced disappearances tells you how bad human rights record in Pakistan is. And that is in response to Bilawal's diatribe on India and its human rights in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. So he has countered that. Then he has gone ahead and spoken about, I don't know if you know about the name, Dr. Shakil Afridi, if that rings a bell. He is the man who was arrested in US because he's the one who helped Americans track Osama bin Laden in Pakistan.
Okay.
Through that polio campaign. So that was the doctor. His name was Dr. Shakil Afridi. So he has gone ahead and again criticized Pakistan for keeping him in jail till now. He has said that that doctor needs to be released. He doesn't deserve imprisonment in Pakistan. So again, taking on Pakistan rather than giving Pakistan any support against India. So when you look at the US visit of Bilal and you look at what has happened thereafter, it has been a humiliation for him in US. Then let's move on to what happened in UN. In UNSC, in the press briefing, Bilawal made a very snide remark about saying that Indian Muslims are, treated very badly and they are not a part of mainstream India. To which a journalist very bluntly went up and questioned him, saying that the Indian military operational briefings was led by a Muslim woman, Indian Army Muslim woman. To which he said, yes, on the military front, it's right. And then he literally had jumbled. He had no answer to any journalist on the follow-up questions. So his press conference went for a toss. It was a disaster, PR disaster for Pakistan. Then, interestingly, this gentleman goes ahead and Bhutto goes ahead and rings up Malaysian authorities, because the Indian delegation is out on the world, right? And we had about 10 events planned in Malaysia. And he plays the classic religious card by telling the Malaysians that you are an Islamic country, we are an Islamic country. So you should not allow a non-Islamic country to hold such events, and you should support us directly. How brazen can they get? But the response from Malaysia was cold shoulder. The Malaysians didn't entertain him. We went ahead and conducted all those 10 events we had planned on Operation Sindoor, briefing people up in Malaysia, in different parts of Malaysia. Turned out to be a success for us. right? So this dossier is not selling anywhere. They lost the war on the ground. They are losing the war on narratives as well, where it matters on the global stage. There's a lot of noise that India is losing the narrative war and everything, but look at the results of that narrative war, what has happened. Look at the dossier India has prepared against Pakistan and presented to the world. And look at the dossier Pakistan prepared and what they had to face because of that dossier.
Right. Amongst the other things in this dossier, what they're harping on is that India has blamed Pakistan without any evidence. They have claimed that the terror attack started from say 1:50 p.m. and it concluded at 2:10 p.m.
220.
2:20 p.m. and at 2:30 p.m. the FIR was lodged naming Pakistan. Uh, Pakistan is brazenly mentioning that this is absolute fake, and in 10 minutes you cannot be concluding investigation. And India is wrong because India rejected their joint investigation proposal. So with this 10-minute, they've mentioned it more than once. In fact, 2-3 times they've mentioned in the dossier. What do you have to say on that? That why they're hanging, they're hung up on the 10-minute
See,
frame.
that's the problem with Pakistan. Even if you would have blamed them after 3 hours, they would have still said the same thing. That where is the evidence Pakistan didn't do it? When the reality is, when this attack was happening, it started at about 10 to 2. 15 minutes into the attack, 10-15 minutes into the attack, TRF claims it online. Lashkar-e-Toiba claims it online. Right? It's only after they realize 3 hours later that the argument has gone against them and India has nailed them. They issued a statement saying that we have got nothing to do with this. Next day, the LET spokesperson, I think it was Saifullah Kasuri, who came up and said that no, LET has nothing to do with this attack, right? But the reality is that is how Pakistan operates. If you remember what happened in Mumbai, during Mumbai attacks also, Lashkar-e-Toiba went ahead and claimed those attacks, and then they claimed complete deniability. So that is a classic way of Pakistan of creating plausible deniability, what you say, which is plausible and which is deniable, to create some kind of thing for them to say. So I think that's irrelevant whether it was in 10 minutes or whether it was in 3 hours or 5 hours, because the reality is that our FIR is based on Lashkar-e-Toiba's own statement of owning the attack.
Right. Okay. What about their claims that this was a false flag? They have claimed that not just the Pahalgam terror attack, but Pulwama terror attack and the Samjhauta Express blast, as well as the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack, all of them were false flags as per Pakistan. So obviously there have been very ample evidence that.
Look at the brazenity of the Pakistanis. You have David Coleman Headley,
Right.
who nailed Pakistan, right? You have Tahawar Rana, who is in our custody right now, extradited from US on Mumbai attacks. We all know Tahawar Rana is a Pakistani who was living in Canada and then US, right? You had Ajmal Kasab in custody on tape, detailing how Lashkar-e-Toiba planned it, right? The FBI knows it, the CIA knows it, every intelligence agency in the world knows it, Pakistan knows it. And if Mumbai was a false flag, then why did Pakistanis wanted a joint investigation into that thing? Why did they offer that? Why did that happen? Why did Pakistanis offer a joint investigation in Pathankot? I mean, I will only say, okay, let me look into the evidence once, I think that you will say I'm being blamed, I'll say, okay, let me look at it, right? But the reality is they have done that. Mumbai, we gave them a joint investigation. Pathankot, we gave them, ISI literally walked into the Pathankot airbase, right? What has been the end result? More deniability,
Right.
No action against terror.
And more terror attacks.
So why should India give Pakistan another opportunity of giving them a joint investigation? How can you tell your own murderer or your own attacker, okay, you come and nurse my wounds?
Right.
Where does that work? It doesn't work anywhere.
Right. Now, there are naysayers, okay? A lot of people in the enemies of country within India also, there are ample. They say that Pahalgam was 200 kilometers from Pakistan border. Pakistan also has mentioned it in the dossier that because of the distance, 200 kilometer under border jaake how can Pakistan attack? This as
how far is Mumbai from
yeah, so
right?
Correct.
How far was J&K assembly when that suicide bombing happened on it? How far is Srinagar from Pakistan border? How far is Pune from Pakistan border? How far is Madhya Pradesh from Pakistan border? So this thing saying that, it's 200 kilometers far away, how can Pakistan do it? How did 5,000 Pakistani backed infiltrators landed up in different organizations in Jammu and Kashmir all through the 90s? How was Pakistan able to smuggle all those weapons into Jammu and Kashmir, hundreds of kilometers inside Kashmir? So, if you are infiltrating and you have sleeper cells who are operating at your behest, and you have handlers sitting in Pakistan, and you're training people in Jammu and Kashmir for terrorism, then how can you say it's 200 kilometers, it's beyond our reach? It's not it's not a Pakistani military operation that you can, cast doubt saying that यार 200 kilometer army वाला अंदर आके Pakistan military अंदर कैसे आ गई? It's a terrorist. He has used a jungle terrain. He has infiltrated years ago. He has been tasked for that. So Pakistan okay. So, and if I take the whole thing and I then counter question, how far is Balochistan from Indian border? How does Pakistan blame India for anything which happens into Balochistan? How does Pakistan blame anything which happens into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? Right? Because when Balochistan train incident happened, then how did they blame us? It's further than 200 kilometers from the Indian border. So see, these are all, you can say these are all excuses. And these are very, very weak excuses saying that it's 200 kilometers, we cannot reach you. So what are you trying to tell us, that it's 50 kilometers? If it had happened 50 kilometers in, you would have said, yeah, it's us. We have been doing it 10 kilometers inside the LOC, you would have said, yes, it's us. So it's just to throw confusion and baseless things, what will stick on the wall and what will not stick on the wall. The reality is nothing is sticking on the wall.
Speaking of reality, they have also published a lot of news headlines and to make their case that it was India which was the aggressor, and how Pahalgam was actually something that was PM Modi's failure. Okay. So prominent amongst those news shared are Al Jazeera, the Qatar state sponsored media. There's BBC, the British space British
Broadcasting.
state-sponsored media,
Big bullshit corporation. Yeah.
and then we have The Wire. There are at least two screenshots of Karan Thappar's interview, one with Satyapal Malik. One is with Colonel Ajay Shukla. Again, absolute.
And there were many more.
There were many more. They've only included a couple of them. There is one with Siddharth Varadarajan also. So all of them are kind of blaming the current government for the Pahalgam attack.
They're not blaming the current government for the Pahalgam attack. So this is what the Pakistanis are playing, which is called misinformation. It's a classic misinformation. What the Pakistanis don't realize is that India is a democratic country. No matter how aberrant or how obnoxious I find all these people sitting on the other side of the fence who are constantly pointing fingers at you. One thing is true, that in India, the media is completely free. Right? It's a free and fair media. It's not like Pakistan.
As long as you're blaming the
government. No, it's fine. That is what free and fair is. You can question the government.
Yeah.
We are not. See, what is Pakistan's claim? That Modi has an authoritarian regime going on in India. If Modi has a authoritarian regime going on, Prime Minister Modi, how is it then the media is able to point fingers and ask questions? Now I'll come to the question what they're asking, and I'll make the differentiation between the two. But this is also important. So one, that their propaganda of an authoritarian regime of Prime Minister Modi falls flat when you see media covering like this. Whether it's international media, you don't have hold on, but you can completely have hold on your national media. And we have national media which ask far more questions than those who actually defend them. But that's not the point. The point is, from the Indian side, all these people said, is this an intelligence failure? And it's a fair question to ask.
Correct.
Right? You have every right in a democracy to ask your government, did our intelligence agencies fail somewhere? Okay? Equating failure of intelligence does not mean it's a flat false operation.
Correct.
These are entirely two different things. So just merely because the Indian media, not to our liking, have gone ahead and started pointing fingers at the government, saying that because of you it has happened, which means your intelligence agencies failed, our intelligence agencies failed to detect these terrorists, and that is why the terrorist attack happened, right? Pakistan is equating it, saying that, oh no, because the Indian media is talking about intelligence failure, it means it's a false flag. How on earth? Only because it is an intelligence failure, it is not a false flag that Pakistan has been able to perpetrate this terror attack. Had the intelligence agencies, which they get 365 days, 364 days, they get their intent, they prevent attacks. Had they been able to do that, they would have also thwarted this attempt of Pakistan's nefarious designs, right? And Pakistan's understanding, unfortunately, is very bad because in Pakistan there is no free and fair media. Not even a single journalist has asked one single question to Pakistan. You have not seen any journalist in Pakistan talking about how many air bases are hit in Pakistan. They're only telling you what ISPR tells them day in and day out. They give them a handout and they read from that handout. Nobody is allowed to ask a question, counter question that handout, saying that, hold on, there are Pakistanis who have put out these videos. What do you have to say about them? The journalists don't even have the guts in Pakistan to question that. And they have the audacity to say that, the Indian journalists are going ahead and doing this, that means it is this. But the reality is that, as we like or we don't like, they've just raised questions saying that's an intelligence failure. And if you have to ask that question, I think it's a fair question. I don't see why there is a problem. The timing can always be questioned, yes.
Right, but see, I want your views on how the Indian media, as well as certain Indian influencers, Indian political parties, they end up playing pawns in Pakistan's game of narrative. How they end up propagating Pakistan's narrative when it comes to the anti-India bias, right? A couple of mainstream politicians, the mainstream political party, they have made statements and which Pakistan has used against India. Some of them are also part of this dossier. Media houses, there are influencers. What do you have to say about these people? Again, freedom of speech and democracy, all on one side, but how far is how free should freedom of speech be when it ends up being used against your own nation?
No, you're right. See, there is nothing called absolute freedom of speech.
Right.
Right. We all know that tomato is a fruit, but the wisdom is not putting tomato in a fruit salad. It's very simple. So there's nothing called absolute freedom of speech. But then again, where do you curtail this freedom of speech as well?
Right.
And what do you define as anti-national? Now the problem is, unfortunately, for some people who have been so used to a power lobby, which has been existing for decades in this country, they suddenly woke up one day after 2014 realizing they don't have those power lobbies. They don't control those lobbies anymore. And that has literally made them insane. To a point where they are now ready to risk, not only to risk, they've already gone beyond that and they've risked their reputations. They've risked the professions, right? They have risked their own, I would say, ideology to go so far left that they cannot distinguish the difference between the government of India and in India or Bharat itself. In their quest to be anti-government, they have become anti-Indian. And that is where the problem lies. Because this ecosystem was so strong before 2014. And now suddenly they find themselves completely irrelevant. And that has literally turned them lunatic. But at the end of the day, look, they are the ones who are losing credibility. Who listens to them? Who hears them out? Do they have respect? If they walk on a street on India, do you think normal people respect them? Right? So they are the ones who have lost out. They are the ones who are losing out. But it's just that their madness has, taken over their reasoning mind. And it's a sad thing to do. But then, yes, there are people who have made seditious comments also, right? That is something you have to be very, very careful about. And I think that is where something we have to draw a line as well. Sedition cannot be allowed under free speech. I have a very clear thought about it. But how do you define sedition? That's a different debate.
Right. Okay. One more question I have. Pakistan Dossier claims that obviously we discussed earlier also that India has gone far deeper into the Pakistan territory and destroyed a couple of their other targets as well, which Indian forces did not mention in their press conferences. But what is problematic here is that Pakistan has claimed that India attacked the civilians also, and Pakistan has now claimed in the dossier itself that they were only responding to India's aggression. And when they retaliated, they only attacked the Indian military installations and did not attack the Indian civilians. Of course, the evidence has been completely different on both the issues, right? We have seen videos from Jammu where people, normal, their residents, they are seeing drone
Yeah,
attacks.
you had a
being,
drone which fell on a residence in Jammu.
Right.
You have LOC, Punch mein you had a 2-year-old kid. You had an assistant deputy commissioner
Right,
who
and
died.
what exactly was their missile targeting? The one which Sirsa intercepted, which was targeted for Delhi. What was
The
it?
point was, Nirva, that if you look at this war, this 2-day, 3-day war, it was complete dominance of Indian military over Pakistan military. Pakistan tried drones, Pakistan tried missiles, Pakistan tried to throw everything they had in their arsenal against India. When it came to this drone, new age warfare we are talking about, right? They tried throwing on the LOC as well. They got beaten black and blue there as well. They just could not match the Indian strength, and that is a reality of this operation. I think it's not only taken Pakistan by surprise, but it's also taken the world by surprise that how far India has come in its own indigenous defense equipments and how potent and how deadly Indian military equipments are basically. So we have not only arrived on an economic stage at number 4, but we have announced our arrival as a military power as well on the global stage. Now, Pakistan can claim and cry on anything, but the reality is the satellites don't lie, the photographs don't lie, the videos don't lie, right? Nowhere the Pakistanis have taken out videos saying that, look, the homes are burning. But on this side of the LOC, you have on LOC, whether it is Karna, whether it is Uri, you have civilians who have come out with the videos showing you that Pakistanis targeted civilian infrastructure.
Right.
Unless and until, it's the same thing what they said, Osama bin Laden is a civilian who lives in a very peaceful neighborhood. So Americans killed civilians. Osama was a civilian. It's like New York Times saying Baghdadi was an austere scholar. So that's the kind of thing they are saying. So, they accept in this dossier that Bahawalpur has been hit. Murid Ke has been hit.
Yes.
Muzaffarabad has been hit. We all know Bahawalpur is Jaish-e-Mohammed.
Right.
Murid Ke is LET. Muzaffarabad is Sayyid Salahuddin and UGC, and we have hit those terror camps. Unless and until the Pakistanis drag the civilians into these terror or infrastructure, these terror facilities, and then claim that the locals have died. Because anything which happens in Pakistan, even if you look at Pakistan's insurgency, the ingrown insurgency, even in KPK, when they go under attack and they have military losses, they refuse to take military losses. Right? And if these were civilians, what was Abdul Rauf of Lashkar-e-Toiba going ahead and carrying out the funeral fairs, and Pakistani's whole military establishment was standing behind it. Which reminds me that Sherman, he had also mentioned this to the Pakistanis, saying that when they said, when Bhutto actually went ahead and defended Abdul Rauf, he said that he is designated as a LET affiliated terrorist by UN Treasury branches itself. So Americans have already designated him as a terrorist, and you try to portray him as a civilian. So there is nothing new for Pakistani civilians and terrorism. They think terrorists are civilians, ordinary living people among them.
No, but also, you think it has also something to do with the Hamas leaders being in POK just before a couple of months back, and how Hamas modus operandi is also using civilians as a shield?
See, I don't know. I don't think so.
This is not.
I don't think so. Lashkar-e-Toiba didn't drag civilians and put them into Mohit. This whole Hamas hand play, thing is being outplayed by saying that Hamas has given you the ideas. The reality is, terrorism is a very dynamic thing, right? And Hamas being present there doesn't tell you that Hamas has anything to do with this attack. Now the Pakistanis would love to say that Hamas ka hai, Hamas has done it, because they want to take it off their back and say Pakistan में किसी ने नहीं किया, फिलिस्तीन में बैठी organization जो है वो इंडिया को टारगेट कर रही है. So they might want to create that kind of narrative. But the reality is those 8 Hamas people who were there, they were actually recruiting for Gaza. Pakistan has put more than 300 people on red list, watching them 24/7 because those 300 people were ready to leave Pakistan and go and fight Israelis in Gaza.
Okay.
The other day, there was an anti-Israeli protest done by an ex-senator, Mushtaq Ahmed. His family was doing it. His wife was there. His daughter was there. His son was there. His family were there. They were carrying an anti-Gaza, pro-Gaza, protest. They all were arrested and jailed for 7 days by the judge. So this is Pakistan, where they talk about Palestine, they talk about Kashmir and Palestine, they talk about Israel being a Yehudi country, and this is how, in reality, in Pakistan, they handle these Israeli things. How mindful they are that beyond rhetoric, beyond words, when it comes to support, they actually go and support the Israelis.
Okay, one last question. Two last questions. Okay, one is that in the dossier they mention how Indians violated Pakistani airspace during the period, and when 57 commercial flights were in the Pakistan airspace. Okay, but we have seen that there was no time issued. But Pakistan was actually flying the jetliners in middle of attacks.
They were deliberately doing it. That was a
Right.
deliberate attempt and a ploy by the Pakistanis to evade Indian attack on their installations, because they thought by keeping jetliners up, it will be very difficult for India to target them. And if any passenger jetliner gets hits, then imagine
Right.
what would have happened globally.
Correct.
Right. So that was a very, very clever and a very, I would say, very sinister plan of the Pakistanis throughout the war. Because when you are at war, you don't let civilian airliners fly, in your zone.
Right.
So that's what the Pakistanis did, and that was a part of their strategy. But the way we hit them, and the way of course, we violated their airspace. Of course, there were missiles raining on their terror and their military things. So yes, they're accepting it. They're accepting everything. Even Shahbaz Sharif has given us more places where we have hit than we agreed to this. We have it. So the Pakistanis know we hit them back.
Correct.
Black and blue, we hit them. So yes.
Okay, and one last question. They have mentioned, Pakistan in the dossier has mentioned that 5 Indian aircrafts were confirmed shot down. 3 Rafales were shot down, MiG-29 and Su-30, and S-400 systems at Adampur and Bhuj were attacked and effectively neutralized. 84 Indian drones were shot down. These are the and of 2 BrahMos storage facilities were also destroyed, which it
Well,
claims.
had this war gone on, I think Pakistan would have claimed the entire Indian army has been obliterated and nobody is fighting us. That is how bad they are, right? When they talk about Rafales being down or 5 aircrafts being shot, where is the proof?
Correct.
Where is the electronic signature of your planes shooting down missiles or firing missiles? On the contrary, we know that you had planes on the runway which the missiles once hit your runways were up in flames. The C-130 for sure at Yar Rahim Khan was up in flames. Okay, Noor Khan Air Base was hit. Now you are slowly accepting the Jordanian F-16s we had, not the American. And look at the Pakistani messaging here. Now within Pakistan, the reports are coming, no, there were some Jordanian F-16s that Pakistan had bought earlier. They might have been damaged, right? S-400, where did you damage? One of your missiles couldn't even land. It was destroyed in the air. So Pakistanis have created this for their own people, these lies that we have destroyed everything. When the reality is, it's the only thing which got destroyed is Pakistan's military and its reputation once again globally. Nothing more, nothing less.
So basically, दिल को लुभाने के लिए ख्याल अच्छा.
गालिब दिल को लुभाने के लिए ख्याल अच्छा.
ठीक है.
Absolutely.
Okay, on that note, I think Pakistan dossier should actually be thrown into the garbage bin where it belongs. And thank you so much for joining us today, Muneeb. And we'll see you soon. But this time, we will see you on Saturday, because we are shifting the time for Pamphlet War Room from Tuesday 8 p.m. We'll now be seeing you on Saturday 8 p.m. Thank you so much.
So we'll catch you again on Saturday this week. And till then, thank you, Nirwa.
Thank you so much.